Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.
Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Saurabh Mittal, CFO at S Chand Group, joining in. Welcome to the show, Saurabh, and always a pleasure to speak to you and have you on the show. Saurabh, my first question coming to you is earlier also when we spoke, we were in the midst of COVID. We were trying to ascertain as to what the impact has been then. However, things started improving in the second half of calendar year 2020 towards the end. And now again, we are repeating the cycle, which is worst. How would you actually describe the scenario? Because Jan to March is prime time for publishing houses.
Yeah, good morning, and hope everyone is safe at home and keeping at home. Uh, yes, fortunately, this time it's been a bit later than the previous year. Last year, I think it hit us the mid of March, and post that we had some a lot of issues. We had a complete lockdown. Fortunately, for this time, there's been a gap in terms of, it started here in Delhi around the 15th, 16th of April. So most of the season, I would say, was over for us in terms of supplies. So that way, the impact was only limited to states like Maharashtra, Kerala, where the pandemic was pretty harsh, probably in Feb and March also. So that is one major impact. The other, of course, is with the whole session started to getting shifted, and some places like West Bengal examinations were postponed. So we've had some impact, but I would say we are possibly retain whatever we did last year, and we're in much better shape this time.
Right. And now that the second wave is something that is continued, the anticipation is that there could be a third wave as well. Do we see similar lumping of revenues in FY22 as well, or do you think FY22 probably will be better than FY21?
I mean, looking forward, of course, nobody can say what will happen because the times are very, very uncertain. We were sitting in January and we were probably hoping that schools would open in April, and things were looking very normal. People were going on holidays, and everything was practically almost back to normal except for the masks that we were all wearing. But having said that, I mean, we can only plan for what we know. We cannot plan for what we don't know, and we are taking it a quarter at a time and ensuring that we are conservative with what we do, conservative with any kind of spend, be careful with the kind of inventory we have, and also monitor the inventories that are lying with our own channel partners. So this has been a year to take a step back, relook at your model, look at where your inefficiencies are, and make yourself lean and ready to go once things get back to normal. In terms of a specific questions, in terms of lumpiness, we possibly could see some of the revenue that was shifted from Q4 coming in Q1 once possibly Maharashtra and Kerala and West Bengal elections get over. So that's one part that might come back in Q1. The other, of course, is we are awaiting the NCF, the National Curriculum Framework from the government. If that comes in, of course, it'll be a game changer for the industry, and there'll be a new set of books that will. So there'll be a lot of activity in the next 6 months. Our hope is that it should come in around September this year. So once that happens, of course, for the next 2 years, there's a big opportunity for all of us to go ahead and provide fresh and meaningful content to the students. So, and FY20, of course, if even if the NCF does not come in, we possibly could see the pandemic now. Normally, the second wave, what we've heard is going to be the worst, and people are, I guess, after this are going to be more careful, having seen the worst of it. So, I guess possibly the third wave may just be a smaller one. But again, it's anybody's
Right. So, Saurabh, usually, we've seen that the fourth quarter accounts for almost 75 to 80% of the annual revenues. And you have March, which is the maximum, which is 30 to 40%. How has the trend changed this time around? Because again, last in FY21 as well, if you go to see, there was a lot of postponement that kept happening with regards to where purchases go of books.
Yeah, so again, in terms of percentage overall for a quarter, it remained almost the same. About 75% came in the last quarter. Uh, Having said that, Jan was a bit slow because schools were just starting to open for classes 9 to 12, and again there was not much surety on how things would go for schools. But Feb and March things really picked up. I would say around the 15th of Feb things started picking up, and it was like normal schools will start somewhere around first week of April. So we did have a lot of activity around there, and a lot of the orders did get, most of the orders did get processed during that period. And fortunately, with no lockdown scenario as such, there was no restriction on supplies as late as last week. So
Hmm.
that way, things have been normal for us.
Okay. And overall now, how is the order book looking like?
We do have a decent order book for school and higher education both, and but again we will reassess once things open up again, because currently there are vacations that are on for schools in the NCR and uh, a lot of the other states also. So once schools probably open up the first week of June, uh, even if they are to do the online mode, we will have a better assessment on how the order book actually looks, because most of the admissions and would have been done by them. So schools would have a sense on what more they would need. Uh, Higher education, of course, we have contracts with some government universities. There, of course, it's a fixed order book that will continue to supply.
Right. And sort of beyond this, if you see on the operations front, at what capacity are we operational right now, and how is the cost structure panning out? Are we seeing reduction in costs, which will probably constantly keep aiding our margins?
Uh, in terms of costs, I think we've done a good amount of work in the last 2 years. I mean, we were lucky, or I mean, we were fortunate enough to start the process in December of 2018, when we realized that the cost structures had to look a bit leaner, and that has paid off. We have almost had a 25% fixed cost reduction in FY 2021 overall, and that bodes well for us going into the future. A lot of the costs have typically changed in terms of the way things are happening on the ground. Things like we used to do a lot of physical workshops has gone online, which is a big a game changer for promotions in schools. Uh, Things like holding physical meetings is a way. So again, that's travel, of course, is another thing. Physical distribution of specimen copies to teachers. So those are costs which forever have probably moved on to a different level now. So I don't see those costs coming back. Yes, there will be some manpower hiring and increase probably this year as compared to last year. Last year, of course, we had to resort to pay reductions in some certain cases to hold back costs, because it was an uncertain scenario at that point of time. But currently, we are very well placed, so we will be looking at taking in more new people for the current year once the NCF comes in, of course. Again, depending upon if the NCF comes in, because that's the time we'll start to invest more. And overall, of course, in terms of operations, we have centralized a lot of our operations. A lot of our offices have got into work from home mode. We've probably shut down about 10 offices pan India and moved everybody home. That has helped us. I mean, we've had less issues on account of that. And the supply we've centralized from about 3 or 4 locations. So it's easier to manage the inventory, and we don't have duplication of inventory. So on an inventory front also, we're probably down 25-30% on the overall inventory. So that way, we've been able to make a sustainable difference to the kind of cost structure that we had.
Right. And in terms of capacity utilization, where are we right now?
Capacity, I mean, capacity, I don't know what you can call capacity for our business, because printing capacity is something that we can really outsource also. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
typically probably our printing facilities are about 35% utilized, and we've got big enough capacities. But again, these are seasonal capacities. Season probably we ended up this year about at about 55-60% as compared to 90% in the earlier years. We've typically this year we have reduced the print runs and try to work on our inventory. So our production has been much lower this year.
Okay. And Saurabh, when you talk about S Chand as well, there are more than over 12,000 titles in the school and education category that have been published last year by S Chand. Now, the company is a major force in the Indian textbook market. Taking the current scenario into consideration, how are you seeing changes happen?
So I mean, in terms of the specific book publishing industry, see, a lot of the players, including us, have started offering learning management systems to the schools, enabling them with ebooks, assessment platforms, and teacher help, training teachers. So we've got Educate 360, we've got Milestones, we've got LearnFlix. So all of these do have teacher apps and student apps, most of them. And this has helped us, reach out to teachers even during the pandemic, enabling them with ebooks, flip books, digital content, assessments, question banks. So all of that is already there, and we've taken, and we also last year took majority stake in Editor Technologies, a company that we had invested way back in 2014, and they are working on multiple platforms for us for the LMS. So they have a LMS platform which they've been giving to schools and universities and coaching institutions since 2014. They've white labeled a lot of our platforms like Educate 360, LearnFlix, Milestone, and we'll continue to develop other platforms along with them to offer to schools.
Okay. And sort of, now that we're talking of the digital world also that is picking up, and probably everyone had anticipated that in the next 4 to 5 years, we will see digital, which will evolve, but it's evolved much faster because of COVID. What are the steps that S Chand has been taking to fit into the digital space now? The transition from a publishing house on paper to a publishing house in the digital form.
Yeah, so in terms of that, most of our content, I mean, I would say we were more of a content company than just a print book publishing company. We've got content which is available in PDF, EPUB, and that can go into any platform. So we have offered in the last 1 year a lot of our ebooks to schools, to colleges who asked for them. We have about 2 platforms in which we can offer books, either on a subscription basis or even on a library basis. So that we've been offering to institutions. Some of them have really taken it up. Our ebook sales are probably jumped 100%. Of course, the individual figure is still small, but then that's slightly higher. Apart from that, we've seen that the e-commerce platform also contributes substantially to revenue. The last 1 year, it's moved up to about 8.5-9% in terms of the overall revenue. So there also we are there, and we are selling both ebooks and physical books on that platform. So I mean, whether it is the LMS, whether it's the standalone learning app, whether it is a curriculum solution which is available on both teacher and student apps, whether it is digital content in schools, we are prepared. We have the content, we have the capability, and everything is available in formats which we can publish in any form. So that way we really don't have a challenge. They're in transitions.
Right. And then, so right now, Saurabh, what percentage of the revenues have started to come in from the digital side? And in the next 5 years, how much of the revenues do you think will come in from the digital space?
We are about still a single single digit in terms of digital. I think so it would be about between 8 to 10% right now. It was 7% earlier. We expect it to go up to about 25-30% in next 3 years. But again, I mean, see, a lot of the physical books are also going with e-books. So if you count that, then almost all our physical books have some kind of digital intervention anyway. So whether it is a QR code which is embedded in the book, whether there is a supporting app that is there, and whether it is test generators that are being provided to the teachers to run. So I mean, there is a digital element associated with most of the school books. So I don't see. I mean, we don't count that in the digital revenue, but again, the intervention has already been there for 4-5 years now. I mean, a single print book without digital content, except for the higher education segment, is not really working right now.
Mhm. Right. And Saurabh, overall, when you talk about the digital side, the education system is seeing the emergence of several edtech startups. A lot of them are grabbing a pie of the education market. In fact, they have been seeing a lot of VC funding that's coming to them as well. So, how will a brand which is relatively new make a place for itself in the digital space, according to you?
See, most of the edtech players have come into the after school space, which is not the formal education space. So most of them are either into the tutoring space or the self-learning app space. The formal education space is still, I mean, being run through schools only. So except for a few who are providing curriculum solutions directly to schools in the B2B segment, that segment is still not been disrupted. I mean, of course, there is a lot of tuition classes going around, but formal education has still not got that kind of change. Teachers across schools have also adapted in the last 1 year to teaching online. Now, whether that really has an impact over a long period of time is something that we really don't know. I mean, personally, we've seen two sides of the same thing. We've seen somebody who's very comfortable and somebody who's completely uncomfortable. Somebody who's done phenomenally better in terms of the online. Somebody who's just got disrupted and probably stopped studying post the online space. So I mean, it's very difficult to say what is really successful. Yes, of course, there's big money riding on it. I mean, people have raised a lot of money. They have spent a lot of money on both marketing and content development. I hope they do well, and we continue also to provide content. But of course, we have two things in mind. One is that we have to make it affordable for the students. Of course, we will not sell something which is completely unaffordable. And secondly, something that can make a change in the long term. We are not here for making short-term solutions for students, and because we've been a brand which has been around for 80 odd years, and we don't want to dilute our ethics in terms of providing short-term solutions. So we'll continue to work in the way where we can actually really make an impact on the ground. But having said, of course, the others, I mean, there is nothing taking away from the edtech players who are raising money and trying to do something different. And there's a lot that is happening, and I'm sure some of them will do a lot of phenomenal work.
Right. So, Saurabh, for S Chand as well, you have LearnFlix, Flix that has come in as a learning app that you've launched. Educate 360, which is a complete LMS launched for schools, which is a new platform. And you have Milestone, which is an app for teachers and students. Now, taking these three into consideration, if you give us more details, and how do you think they expect to change, business and learning for students?
So I'll start with Milestone. Milestone is a solution that is a curriculum solution for K-8 that we started 4 years back, I think 2016, 5 years back. The initial idea was to target affordable private schools, which had a challenge in acquiring quality teachers And because there was no standard quality of curriculum being taught, everybody was doing his own thing. So all these schools which were set up by probably entrepreneurs who did not have so much of experience in the education sector, to help them teach better, bring about standards in the type of teaching that is happening. So we give them a complete blueprint of what to teach, how to teach, when to teach, and backed it up with a lot of assessments and and hand holding. So we train the teachers also. We give them a complete blueprint on what is to be taught, and we then audit what they are doing also in schools. So it's a complete hand holding of the education scenario inside a school. So we were completely doing that and showing an impact. So that we've grown to about 400 odd schools, and that's really making an impact. Now, initially, while it was more of a physical mode, last year we, in April itself, we switched it on to the Milestone app, and we've been able to, enable schools continue the learning process last year. We did, of course, launch the teacher app also this year, where the teacher could push in notifications, homework, and stuff to the students. So that now is a complete solution. It's complete LMS now in terms of what Milestone is. So that's been growing for the last 4-5 years for us, and we are also out looking to raise money for that segment. LearnFlix, of course, last year we launched in about January, and while it is a learning app and should be focused on B2C, considering that very affordable, we have largely played the B2B game. We are offering it to schools, to the students through schools. And initially we did have a lot of success in that, but of course, last year schools have been closed. They've had their own challenges with collecting their own fees. We've not pushed to them. We've offered some of them LearnFlix free for their students who've been using our other products. And of course, this year again, we were supposed to do a lot of B2B with them, but again, with the way the pandemic started, we'll relook at what we are doing and probably do a B2B2C. I mean, we'll ask them to give us access to their students, and additionally, to help schools monitor what the child is doing at home, we've also built in a teacher functionality within the app, where the teacher who recommends it to the students can also see what the student is doing and assess what problems he's facing and how she can resolve them and what he needs to study. So earlier it was a standalone app which a student could run on his own, but now it has become it's also has a teacher enablement where a teacher can actually see what the student is doing. And so that has helped schools also adopt it.
Right. So sort of very last.
The last one is, of course, Educate 360.
Okay.
If you're not running out of time. So Educate
No,
360,
go on.
Educate 360 is was something that we thought about in April, May last year. We took a feedback from about 75 to 100 schools and worked around the problems that they were facing in terms of what was required. And what we understood was they wanted a simple solution in which they could teach, they could assess, and they could show the content to the students. That is all that they wanted. And so we built it around that. We did a pilot with about 50 schools in October, November, December. And now we've got about 50, 60 schools who are actually using it. We've not pushed it too much because first we want to take feedback and fine tune the process. And then we will actually go out and market it more aggressively. So currently we are still in the learning phase for it. And we want schools to use it, give us feedback, improve it. And then once we think it is scalable enough, then we'll go out with that.
Right. So sort of very lastly from here on, if you have to look at the next 3 years, what's the kind of growth that we are anticipating and what is the strategy that we will look at expansion?
In terms of growth, once the NCF comes in, of course, we do see a double-digit growth in the high teens from where we are right now. And the strategy is, of course, to focus on our cost trends. We will not do a lot of, we will not spend too much here and there. We will focus on what is core to us in terms of creating meaningful content and to do whatever we're doing right. So revenue per se is important to us, but we would rather also make an impact and maintain our margins. Margins maintaining margins, improving cash flows is something that we are really looking at, and something that has happened with us last year. I mean, our cash flows have improved substantially as compared to any of the earlier years. Even with maybe a lower revenue or a flat revenue, we've actually moved cash flows substantially. So the working capital improvement, improving cash flows, reducing debt is something that we are actively looking at, and of course, growing our digital platforms. But of course, with the pandemic around, of course, you can't really plan too much long term right now. At this moment.
So, but sort of any ballpark number that as to by how much are we, what's the milestone that we need to cross in terms of improvement on the margin front and on the cash flow front?
So gross margin, we are fine. I mean, gross margin, we are in the 55-60% category, which I don't think so will move much. But again, if a lot of it goes digital, of course, the gross margin can even touch 70%, because that's
right.
Because once your paper cost goes away, I mean, there is nothing that, plus once your paper goes away, the paper cost goes away, the cost of delivery to the school goes away. So that whole system moves out. So that's a 15-20% cost. So I mean, you could offer something at a cheaper cost to the school and directly deliver it. So the whole middleman also moves out of the way in terms of delivery. On the EBITDA margins, of course, we're looking at going back to 20 to 22% that we were there earlier. And cash flows, a conversion from EBITDA to cash flow should be around at least 60 to 70%. So that's
so that's like a good milestone to look at as well. Thank you, Saurabh, so much for joining us on the show. And I think with the digital world coming in as well, I think more than anything, it's going to be beneficial on the financial front as well to companies. So let's see how everything pans out. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well. Stay safe and speak to you soon again.
Thank you, Hiral. Thank you.
Thank you.